Hey y'all, it's your girl, Mrs. D Green again. How are you? How are you? I hope you're having a fabulous Friday night. Yes, it is Friday, March 28th, 2025. And your girl was feeling a little productive today. Today I had a pretty good start to my morning. I did like a quick little pop rant review. You can go ahead and check that out. It's a new playlist I set up on my channel. I only have one video, and it's speaking on a topic that is kind of trending and controversial, and it's bringing out a lot of emotions, especially within the Black community. But if you're interested in checking that out, go ahead and take a little stroll over there. And then I worked, of course, and then I went and got a fabulous facial, a Hydra facial from Skin Labs Ceuticals, Skin Lab Atlanta's. It's down on Peachtree Road, Midtown, I want to say. But yeah, I'm feeling refreshed. I'm feeling beautiful and, ready to get back at it. Didn't go to the gym, so I figured, all right, well, since I didn't put in anything, physically towards my goal, I'd get some creative things out today, right? If you got to keep churning that stuff out, the engine doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. I hope you guys like my red lips. I think with the backdrop, red lips, that color is a good pop, and then I got my little choker shirt on. So, I'm feeling myself. I may go out this weekend, I may not, but who knows? All right, so before we get into our topic today, let me just go ahead and knock out some housekeeping. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share, all right? That's only 4 things I ask you to do, not necessarily in that order, not necessarily all at once, but just do it so that your girl can circulate on the algorithm, okay? All right, so why are we here? I'm actually going to kick off the season 1 recap of White Lotus. That way I can go ahead and build that anthology and, get people interested and maybe caught up. And then who knows, you can possibly start with this one. And then once I have 2, then you can go to 2 and then you can revisit 3, whatever you feel like you want to do. All right, so let me just stop chatting and let's go ahead and get into it. Make sure I get my water here though, because I don't want my mouth to get dry. Oh, shoot. I love water. And I used to not like water as much when I was younger, but I find as I get older, especially with me having like an aversion to sweet drinks because I prefer to eat candy if I'm going to cheat, right? I prefer water. So what I do to zhuzh it up a little bit is I use frozen fruit as my ice cubes instead of regular ice cubes because I feel like it adds flavor to the water. So little tip from me to you. All right, so the first episode of the first season is titled Arrivals. It starts out with this gentleman sitting at the airport. Now, this is 1 week after the events that has happened. So that's typical of White Lotus. They usually start the episode out with 1 week after whatever's happened. So it could be chaotic, something traumatic, whatever. But it's always 1 week after. So this gentleman is sitting in the airport. And there's a couple from another resort that's talking to him. Now, this gentleman that's sitting at the airport, he tells them he's staying at the White Lotus because they're asking him all these questions. And so they're like, oh, we heard someone died there. And he's like, yeah, they did. They're boarding the body on our plane. And then they ask him why he was at the White Lotus. He tells them he's on his honeymoon. Well, he was on his honeymoon. And they're like, well, where's your wife? And then this is when he puts his glasses on after he's tired of the questioning. And he just tells them to kindly F off. So they're like, okay, they take a hint. Then it goes back to a week before. So week before, you have the guest arriving. Now, as always, they always have like a structure of the guests. So they'll have someone who's alone, they'll have a couple, they'll have a family, what have you. But you will notice the theme in the guests. I guess it's to make the stories a little bit more dynamic in that respect. So they want to give you, different point of views and different dynamics within relationships. But nonetheless, that's the structure also in this season as it is in season 3. So with that being said, the family, like in season 3, you have the Ratliffs. In season 1, you have the Mossbachers. So we have Mark, he's the father, easygoing. I don't think he's employed. They don't mention that in this episode, but the wife, Nicole, she is a CFO. So she is a girl boss, real successful. They have 2 children, Quinn and Olivia. Quinn is their son. I believe he has some sort of sensory disorder. They don't disclose what it is, at least yet. I'm assuming it's some form of Asperger's or autism, but nonetheless, they don't say it. And then Olivia, she's just a typical, teenage girl, thinks she knows it all, very moody. She's played by the badass Sydney Sweeney that played in Euphoria, which, by the way, HBO, come on, bring it back. We it's been 3 years. We need Euphoria back. But yeah, she plays the daughter and she does pretty good. Oh, I forgot to mention the parents. So in this season of White Lotus, the actors in general, they had more known actors because this season aired in 2021 and it was filmed, if I'm not mistaken, during COVID because they were filming in Hawaii. This location is set in Maui. And if I remember the press correctly, because I used to watch Bravo's Watch What Happens Live, and I do remember Connie Britton, or Britton, however you pronounce it. If you've ever watched American Horror Story, she's played in American Horror Story. She played in American Crime Story as well. She played Faye Resnick. And then Steve Zahn is the father. So I'm going to date myself with this one. Maybe not, but he played Ray in Riding in Cars with Boys that starred Drew Barrymore. That was a good movie. Jennifer Coolidge, she's also a guest. This is Tanya. Now, Jennifer Coolidge, if you know, you know. She plays Stifler's mom. And she also played in Legally Blonde. I don't remember her name in Legally Blonde, but we know Jennifer as the bubbly, zany, boobalicious, ditzy blonde. That's like the role she always plays. With the exception of Stifler's mom. She was more of a vixen in American Pie. And then with the Mossbachers, they have a friend that they brought, Paula. This is Olivia's friend. The Mossbachers are white, and Olivia is multiracial. Paula. Paula is multiracial of some sort, and I believe this is done intentional because some of the central themes in the first season are imperialism, social class, colonialism, elitism, wealth. So there are some reasons they cast the way that they did. So we got the family out of the way. And then I already spoke about Jennifer Coolidge. She's the lone guest. And then we have a couple, Shane and Rachel. So Shane is I don't want to say well-to-do, but as well as he can mean, because he has some moments where I kind of like, I agree with him, and then, I rock for him, and then I'm like, you're just so pompous. But he is a pompous, wealthy boy or man. He comes from a family with money. And he's your typical, he knows of his privilege. He's not afraid about it, or he's not apologetic about it, I should say. And, he's just a master of his own universe and doesn't care. And then his wife, Rachel, she actually comes from the opposite end of that. She comes from a family that struggled with money, and she had a career, but she gave that up, when she got married. Well, a little bit of it. So there's a little bit of a struggle between the two of them because of their the way that they grew up and just the way that they see life. So then we get into the staff. Now, like I mentioned before, the staff in this season, they actually, at least Armand, they had more of a presence. And Belinda is in this season. She's played by Natasha Rothwell, and she makes an appearance in season 3. So Armand is the resort manager. And unlike the resort manager in season 3, Armand is very present. He's not, not a passive person at all. Kind of slimy, though. Kind of slimy. So Armand is, he's your typical, salesperson, magician. He's not going to be, forthcoming about the way things operate, which I guess as a manager, that's what you do. You don't ever let your right hand know what your left hand's doing, and that's how you maintain control. But with Armand, that's much of a facade because Armand has a lot of demons that he struggles with. So he's actually kind of on the edge of breaking, with everything he has to manage. And then you have Belinda. Belinda is the spa manager. As you know, she's in season 3, and her son Zion, they're both in Thailand for that season. But in this season, she's the spa manager and kind of like Armand's right-hand man. Like, he counts on her for things. And then you've got Dylan, who is just a resort aide. He has an important, I won't say important, but he had a memorable role. I'll say that. Not gonna spoil it, but you'll be surprised. And then you have Lonnie. So Lonnie, the first day in the first episode, this is her first day. And Armand, because she's training, he's like on her, criticizing everything about her. She has mayonnaise on her shirt. He says something about that. He tells her not to be so present, to kind of fade into the background because of the staff. Armand is white, Dylan is white, Belinda is black, and Lonnie is Hawaiian or Samoan. So he basically says, don't put so much of yourself out there, kind of fade into the background, basically neutralize, who you are. And what he doesn't notice is Lonnie's pregnant. Lonnie's pregnant. So she's hiding this from everyone. It's her first day at work, but she's well into her pregnancy, and her reason is because she had to work. She needed a job or whatever. So Tanya now, she is displaying her high maintenance already because Tanya is a wealthy heiress, and she is there to spread her mother's ashes, who recently passed away. So I want to describe Tanya as kind of kooky, very detached, kind of, even though she's older, naive, much like a child in adult form, but at the same time, a kind spirit, very generous, well-meaning. You can tell she's lonely. So that's why I said we love Tanya. Well, she was beloved because Tanya was imperfectly perfect. She definitely would rub you the wrong way because she's very needy. But Tanya, she's just a lonely soul. That's all. That I don't think got a lot of attention growing up. So Shane and Rachel. So there's going to be a running theme throughout this whole season. So Shane, like I mentioned, comes from money, and he's pompous. So his mother actually booked the hotel and the honeymoon for them, as mothers do for their boys when they're mothers' boys, especially when they have money. So Shane was expecting for the room to be the honeymoon suite, which came with a lot more features and amenities. And they ended up getting not the pineapple room, but the room right below it. Because the pineapple room is between the honeymoon suite and the room that they're in. And so they're in the middle of kissing, and Rachel's ready to embrace her husband, and then he starts complaining. So that's when you start to see the differences. Now, what I mean by that is Shane, he comes from money, and he's very demanding, and he has certain expectations. And Rachel feels like he should not, sweat the small stuff, like be present, like we're on our honeymoon, be happy. This is the way we're living is considered, we're blessed. So why would you want to ruin our honeymoon? Like, that's the vibe she's giving. But like I mentioned, Armand is slimy. So it turns out Shane's not wrong. Shane's not wrong. They actually did book the nicer room, but Armand double booked the couple because remember, Armand is just, he can't really handle all of the responsibility of the White Lotus. So he realizes he double books, but he doesn't cop to it. So he's like trying to gaslight Shane, and Shane is like, no, I know we booked this room. We paid for the room because the receipt says the room that they paid for, but Armand is not copying to it. So that's going to be a strained dynamic throughout the whole series. You know what? I would be Shane. I actually would be Shane. I'm sorry. Call it Karen or whatever the black version of a Karen is. But no, I'm not going to pay for a service and then you try to BS me, and I know I paid for the service, so I'm going to be driving that point home until we get this rectified. I want to be reimbursed. You're talking to a woman that I took my daughter to a fair and they didn't latch her in properly. She was on there with a friend, and then my daughter came crying to me. When I tell you I went to the ride operator and I had him go get his manager and they reimbursed us for our tickets for the fair and gave us food tickets. No, no, no. You're not going to make me uncomfortable. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. So, like, it's funny because Shane's annoying, but, like, when he has those moments with Armand, like, I understand him because I would be the same way, you know? But one thing he says to Rachel that I don't like is, you know, he's raising, you know, this issue, and she's like, well, what's the big deal? And he's like, honey, you haven't traveled a lot, obviously. So I was like, oh, that's a little, you know, condescending to her. All right, so Tanya, now she's in her room, she's asking for her bag, she starts panicking, you know, where's this big white bag, this big white plastic bag? That's the bag that has her mother's ashes. So Lonnie, you know, helps her search for it. Tanya's getting all frantic, and Tanya's very awkward in her mannerisms and just her approach with people. So she's kind of, you know, putting Lonnie at in a state of anxiety. And remember, Lonnie's pregnant. So Lonnie helps her find the bag, and then she leaves the room, and she, I guess, is having contractions and cramps. So the Mossbachers now. So Nicole is a naturally kind of a control freak. I don't want to put that on her because I understand Nicole. You know, she's got a big job, so she's got a lot to manage. So the first thing she gets to is she wants everybody to be, you know, situated, make sure everyone's comfortable. So she's setting everyone up. Her daughter, Olivia, and her friend Paula, they take over the living room because it's a big suite, but, you know, it's 5 people. So there's only, I think, 1 master bedroom, and then the open area for everyone else. And then there's a kitchen that closes off. So Olivia tells Quinn that they don't want him sleeping in the same room with them. So they put him in the kitchen, which is hot. And Lonnie calls her. It goes back to Lonnie's scene. So this is kind of like a period where they're jumping around. Lonnie calls her boyfriend to let him know what's going on with her. And then he tells her she needs to come home. But because she needs the job, she can't leave. She doesn't want to leave. So now we go to Armand and Shane. And so Shane is like, you know, drilling home, like, I know we paid for this. I would prefer this room because we paid for this. And Armand is trying to not cop to his mistake. So he's highlighting the features of the room that they got, basically trying to make them feel good about what they got because it's better than most of the options there. But Shane is like, no. So there's this back and forth. And then, let me see. Oh, I already talked about that. Getting through these notes pretty good. All right, so now we go back to the scene with the Mossbachers. So Mark is actually checking himself, you know, checking his genital areas because he has swollen testicles. So he's very worried. He actually has a health scare and got checked for cancer before they left for the trip. So he's talking to Nicole, and he makes some phone calls to some family members to kind of get a medical history on, you know, the type of cancer that his father passed away from, because his father passed away from cancer. But he doesn't get an answer. So, you know, he's just in a state of frenzy and just trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, naturally, you know, any one of us would feel a certain way if we thought we had something and we're waiting around for the answer, but that's got to be, you know, ruinous to your vacation. All right, so Nicole tells him that he should spend more time with Quinn, their son, instead of focusing so much on, you know, what's going on with him. Be present in the moment and make memories with his son. So I guess he doesn't spend a lot of time with Quinn. They do kind of seem detached, and this scare, I guess, is going to push them together, but we'll see how that works out. At least that's what Nicole is, you know, trying to promote. All right, so Belinda, not Belinda, Tanya goes to the spa to talk with Belinda, and she's trying to book a massage, and it's, mind you, it's the first day, so I guess Tanya didn't book anything ahead of time, which makes sense because Tanya is not very organized and she seems spoiled and like she has a lot of people do things for her, but she seems kind of spacey. So unless she was reminded, why wouldn't you schedule, something upon arrival? But that's not what she did. So she's trying to book a massage, and Belinda tells her that they're booked. But mind you, with the themes within this first season, Belinda, being the spa manager, opts because she knows, okay, well, this is a wealthy white woman. I have to tend her. So she opts as the spa manager to take care of Tanya. She says, I'll give you the massage or whatever. And then now we go to Rachel and Paula and Olivia. Okay, so this is a scene where Paula and Olivia are sitting at the pool and they're stone cold. Like they're sitting down reading. They don't really seem warm and inviting. And Rachel, mind you, while she's on her honeymoon, she's given off this state of distress or just feeling lonely. That's not the right word. It's not distress. She's given off this like need to connect. Now, mind you, she's on her honeymoon. So she's over there trying to talk to these like teenage girls because I guess she just feels like she's losing a part of herself and she wants to maintain as much as she can. So she's like just talking to them and, trying to gain friendship, and they're like trying to blow her off. But the reason she's so drawn to Olivia in particular is once she starts asking questions about her mother, because she recognized Nicole, because she actually did a story on Nicole. That's why she wants to talk to Olivia. I mean, that's what I figured, because why would you want to talk to this little girl? This girl seems like a little brat. You're a grown woman. So, and that's what it was. Like, she's telling her, oh, your mom is wonderful. I did a piece on her. Olivia is not moved. She is one of those, rich kids that enjoys the privilege, but, she tries to make it seem like she's not really attached to the privilege. She's a real little bitch. I'll tell you that. I like Sydney Sweeney, but I don't know, for some reason the character she plays unlikable characters. Like in Euphoria, she plays Cassie. And if you watch Euphoria, Cassie is a train wreck, but she's been through some things in her life. So, she's young, but she's still fucking annoying. And then here, she's just a straight, entitled, cold-hearted, moody, judgmental little bitch. I'm sorry. I just gotta speak it the way I see it. All right, so the girls don't want to talk, so that's where we are with that. So now we go to Lonnie. She is walking to the front desk because she's changed, and Armand is critiquing the way she looks because, she doesn't really look neatly put together. Oh, sorry, y'all. I keep looking in the phone and I don't like what this cover up is doing. It's like folding to the back because I didn't iron it. So pardon me if I'm moving it around. I got to figure out a way to not get it to move so much. All right. I think we're good like this. All right. So Lonnie's talking to Armand at the front desk. And then Shane goes to the front desk. He's pressing Armand about this room, right? So again, Armand is trying to downplay his mistake and make Shane feel good for the choice he made, which Shane didn't make the choice. The room that we booked, you did not give it to us. So Shane's like, you're gaslighting me. He's getting this feeling. And then Armand is like, well, the room you got is the best room. It's one of my favorites. Isn't that right, Lonnie? Now, mind you, Armand and Lonnie don't talk like that. He's just on cue BSing the guests because that's his style of management. He's not really authentic. He just likes to keep a smile on his face and make sure everybody is happy on the surface. But once like the complaints start coming in, he doesn't really rise to the occasion as a manager. So that's why I say Armand's kind of slimy. Which is what made him iconic. I know I said he was a powerhouse in one of my season 3 recaps, but no, he's not a powerhouse. He's iconic because he's just one of those complicated characters that you don't forget. So now, you know, he walks away, and then Mark and Quinn, they go to the desk. And they're asking, you know, what are some activities they can participate in. And I tell you, every activity they went down the list, Armand found a way to, like, oh, say this isn't available. Oh, if you do this, it's going to be 3 days before you get on the list. Oh, if you have to wait on this certification. Oh, this team is leaving the next day, so you would have to, you know, start as early as 6 in the morning. So he has no answer, like, to give to Mark and Quinn for their activities. So he tells them that scuba diving is available, but when they go scuba diving, they're not going to see a lot of, like, the fish, because I was just like, oh gosh, it's like a disaster. But I'll give him that. He's one of those ducks, that duck analogy when they, you know, they say a duck is just floating, you know, smoothly across the water, but paddling up under. That's Armand. Think of Armand. All right. So, Tanya and Belinda's scene. So, they're having their consultation, and, you know, Belinda's talking to Tanya, you know, to kind of understand, you know, what do you need? Because, Belinda is actually a really good spa manager. Like, she believes in healing and, you know, therapy. And so she's walking Tanya basically through her thought process as to what could maybe, you know, be the issue of her body complaints that she has. And so Tanya, she tells her that, you know, her mother recently passed away, but she, what did she say? Oh, she's tired behind the logistics of planning her mother's funeral. And that she's there to spread her mother's ashes. And I believe she mentioned that the mother was difficult. And then Belinda identifies with her because Belinda says she lost her mom 3 years prior. And she's like, you know, letting Tanya know that, you know, the grief is always going to be there. It'll never go away. You just, you know, I guess learn to make peace with it every day. It gets easier, but you don't forget it. And she's just speaking life into Tanya, because then Tanya starts to unpack you know, that she's damaged. Like, she tells Belinda she's got issues with men because she gets really attached and men don't like that. And, you know, she feels empty and she just wants to be loved by someone. It's just, you gotta see it. Like, Tanya, that's why it was so easy for Greg, aka Gary, to prey on her, because Tanya was just a lost soul. You know, she was a lost soul. So Belinda's uplifting her throughout this consultation, you know, speaking life into her, giving her some positive words to chant, you know, just empowering her in that moment they have together, which I thought was good. So Quinn and Mark, now they're scuba diving, and while Quinn is looking under the water, he sees Mark playing with his balls. So then he asks him, he's like, why are you playing with your balls, Dad? It's so weird. And Mark, you know, I don't think Mark tells him why. He just, you know, he's kind of like, oh shit, I'm caught. It's like, at that point, what do you do? So now we go to Rachel and Shane. So Rachel and Shane, I think they go back to the room, or Rachel goes back to the room after she's been at the pool. So he asks her, how was her day? She gives a quick sentence, and then he immediately starts talking about the room and Armand. He doesn't ask follow-up questions about her day or nothing. So Shane is very self-involved. And of course that turns Rachel off, because it's like, well, shoot, I didn't even get a chance to download what was going on with me. So you see the fractures already. And mind you, they're on their honeymoon, and it's mentioned that they were only married like 3 days prior. And so I don't know the time of the year it is for them at the White Lotus, but they did mention, well, they did not. Rachel did mention when she was talking to Paula and Olivia at the pool that they had just met in September. So they had a pretty quick, romance. They were dating, and then before you know it, they were married. But I'm a hopeless romantic, so I believe in that. But if you're gonna have whirlwind romances like that, that's when you really got to feel people's personalities out and get the critical questions out of the way, and then just make some hard decisions, because before you know it, you could be committing to your worst nightmare for the rest of your life. And that's the vibe you get from Rachel and Shane, somewhat. More from Rachel than you do from Shane, because Shane is just so self-involved, but he's in love with Rachel. I can tell he does love her, but it's he's got a lot of ego, so his ego gets in the way of really showing Rachel how much he loves her. So that's definitely his character flaw. All right, so he just tells her, because she's like, why are you making this such a big deal? Like, you need to stop. Like, we're on our honeymoon and I don't want our honeymoon ruined. And then Shane tells her, I just want you to have the best. I just want you to enjoy yourself, which I can respect that. It's natural for a man to want to impress his woman. So, like I said, I kind of get Shane, here and there. I get it. So now we go back to Tanya at the spa. Belinda, the consultation and everything has ended. Belinda is on the phone talking, and Tanya, again, she's awkward. She's lingering at the desk while she's talking, so she gives Belinda a tip, the first time, mind you. Then she gives her another tip awkwardly. It's kind of like to signal attention. And then Belinda's like, oh, okay, oh, that's so sweet. Then I think she does it a third time, and then Belinda's kind of like, oh, okay. Tanya awkwardly walks away. So that's Tanya. All right, so we get to a scene with Quinn and Mark, and they're talking about masculinity. So Mark mentions to Quinn how it's hard nowadays for a man to be a man because there's just so much out there that emasculates him. So Mark has this like fixation on masculinity. I think it has something to do with him not being the breadwinner, because Quinn mentions that. He's kind of like asking him, why does that, why is that at the top of your mind? Is it because mom makes more money than you? Which Quinn is very direct. He's very direct. So that he could have a form of Asperger's or autism, because he really doesn't mince words and he just says whatever's on his mind. But yeah, it's like, get to it. Is that why you want to talk so much about masculinity? Because you feel emasculated by mom? That's why it's like, man, you got to be real comfortable with yourself if you're going to be with a boss woman, So, oh, okay. Now we go to the dinner scene. There's always dinner scenes where there's so much going on. So bear with me, because this is one of those. Okay. If you've seen my season 3 recaps, you know what I mean. So the dinner scene, Armand's going around, talking to all the guests, making sure they're happy. Nicole overhears Paula and Olivia, talking on the other side of the table, and they're making disparaging remarks about Hillary Clinton. Now, this was around 2020, so, it was a very, very sensitive topic on a lot of issues. This was around COVID when things were being filmed, and, with COVID, we had just the pandemic in itself, like, changing the world and putting basically us on our ass. Then you had the election, and then you had Black Lives Matter. A lot of stuff was going on with that. So there's this sense of social consciousness, ironically, that Olivia has. So Nicole is defending Hillary Clinton because she's like, she is a woman that represents for us, that there's opportunities out there like that for us to be in leadership, for us to have strong positions of power. So that's why I admire her, because I'm going to assume Nicole is maybe an older Gen Xer, maybe a late boomer. She's not that old. I want to say maybe between, again, this is 2021. I would say Nicole is probably between mid 40s to mid 50s. So yes, that checks out. Hillary Clinton would be a role model for you. But Olivia is a Gen Zer. So she's like, why should we be impressed by that? You know, Putin's in leadership too. That doesn't mean he's accomplishing everything. And so Mark's like, but your mom's not Putin. She's, you know, the CFO of a very reputable company. And again, Olivia is not impressed by that because she is a rich little brat that enjoys the privilege but is very critical of the way the privilege is earned for her. So the means of it, I should say. So then Dylan runs over to Armand to let him know that Lonnie is in his office delivering her baby. She's gone into labor. Remember, her water broke. And so now Armand is freaking out. And as Armand is trying to figure out what to do, he's like, well, call Belinda. She must have done some midwifery stuff back in the day. And then Dylan's like, well, I could ask, you know, if any of the guests, if there's any doctors, you know, on the premises. And Armand's like shutting that down. Like, no. So as he's like trying to figure out what to do, Tanya's coming over to him to talk to him, and he's not in the right state of mind. But Tanya keeps talking, not recognizing the state of emergency within Armand. So Armand's just freaking out. So Paula, this is what Armand mentioned. He's like, how could she be in labor? This is her first day of work. And I'm like, I get that. I get that. Yeah, why would you do that? But at the same time, we're with the different themes. This is someone that's in need. So regardless of their state or their condition, if they have to work, they have to work. So there's a reason they had Lonnie's story in there the way that they did. Now, while all of this is going on, Paula spots a cute waiter, and then Olivia looks at her, spotting him. And you'll notice, like, there seems to be some sort of jealousy within Olivia. It's as if she doesn't want Paula to have certain things, namely with this guy. So it's like, as long as if I don't have it, you can't have it kind of thing. You have to be leveled with me. So the fact that Paula is taking interest in this guy, and Paula's beautiful. Like, Olivia's cute, but Paula is gorgeous. So, you know, I could see how she would be threatened by her, but, you know, that's your friend. But you know how high school girls are. So, now we're with Shane and Rachel at dinner. Earlier, they had agreed when they were in the hotel room that they would not bring up the room again. Fast forward to dinner. Shane just casually brings it up again. Like, oh, you know, my mom sent me this email. Rachel's like, oh my fucking God. Because again, Rachel, they come from different classes. Rachel didn't grow up with money. So she's just appreciative that they're at the nice resort. They have money. They have that privilege to enjoy their honeymoon the way that they can enjoy it. So she's not caring about the type of room that they're in. Because they're in a pretty nice room. But again, Shane comes from money and he wants to impress her. So differences of opinions, you know. Now, we go to Lonnie in Armand's office, and they do find a doctor. What was his name? I think it was Dr. Rez. And then it goes, I believe, to the next day, because this is 6 episodes this season. So yeah, I think this first episode covers 2 days or 2 different periods. And we have Armand at the desk, kind of like staring into space, and just, you don't know what's going on with him, but he's out of it. So he's talking to the hospital just to make sure everything is okay. Belinda goes over to him and she asks him if he's fine. And Armand feels bad because he's like, here I was criticizing her all day and the whole time she's in labor. So that's eating him up. And then he mentions how he was feeling so stressed out that he actually wanted to get some booze. And Belinda reminds him, you're 5 years sober, so you shouldn't be touching anything. So Armand has a history of addiction and alcohol abuse. So he could go over the edge at any moment. Keep that in mind. So Tanya goes back to her room. You know, she's so impressed with Belinda. She's like looking her up and reading about her in the little staff directory that they have. Mark gets a call from the nurse, but it's weird. So he gets a call from the nurse at the doctor's office, and then I guess there's some sort of connection issue, or the doctor wasn't available. So like she abruptly ends the call and says, "I'll call you back," and kind of leaves him. At least in this scene, so unprofessional. At least in this scene, leaves him not knowing the results of his test, which was the intention of the call. So now he's even more freaked out. And then we go to Rachel and Shane. This is the last scene. So Rachel comes in. Shane's laying in the bed, and she goes over to him, and she expresses, she says, "We're married." She just sits on the bed like that, and she's like, "We're happy, right? I want us to be happy, for the rest of our life. I want us to continue to love each other, always be in a state of bliss." But I take this as she's basically, in a way letting him know that she's not happy, or she's trying to, and she's just having a weird adjustment to this whole marriage thing. And then the type of person she married, he's different from the world she's used to. So she's definitely going through a shock with it all, the cultural adjustment, because she went from being, in the weeds struggling to now she's a millionaire, I'm going to assume. She went from being single and free and a career woman to now she's just a housewife. And she's not really feeling fulfillment from that. So she's trying to talk to Shane, and Shane tells her, he tries to assure her as much as he can, "We will be happy. We will be happy because I'm so in love with you. You're so hot," telling her everything. And he seems like, I made a note that he seems like he's more into her than she is with him, which, if you've heard me talk before, I actually think that that's how it should be, because they say he who finds a wife. The man is supposed to chase you and want you. I feel like if a man has to be in love with you, because men who have a pulse, they're driven by achieving things. They have to set goals. They have to always be going. So even down to their women. I mean, at least for me, when I was pursued heavily in relationships, those were my best relationships. When I had more interest in a person, I ended up having more hurt. So at least for me, the man has to love you a little bit more than you love him. And then the woman eventually falls in love, and, if she's a good woman. But that's just my beliefs, right? So in this case, I feel like initially everything can be good with proper communication, but of White Lotus, you never know, right? Things can just go in any direction. So Shane gives Rachel that assurance that they're going to be happy, and she's like, "All right, we're going to be happy." Proceeds to kiss him. They get real sensual, and then they start making love, and then that's the end of the episode. So let me know what you think, okay? Let me know what you think. It was a slow start, but and I could have did 1 and 2 together, but I like to, again, break it up episode by episode, so you could take your time and kind of follow through with an anthology. But let me know if you want me to summarize more than one episode in one recap. I mean, I can do that too. I'll figure it out. I will drill down on my thoughts and do that for you if that's what you want. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this recap. I'm probably going to record the next one because I do have notes for episode 2, so I may as well get them both out, right? But if I don't, I will talk to you next time. And don't forget, please like, comment, subscribe, and share, all right? Again, we're recapping White Lotus Season 1. I hope you enjoy it. Peace and blessings. Bye.